Alright, this is Joey. I'm going to do a basic redstone tutorial. We're going to show some of the items used, how they're used, and go from there. This is a redstone torch. Redstone torches by default are on. You can set them on top of blocks, or you can attach them to the sides of blocks, like so. To turn a redstone torch off, you'll need to power the block that it's attached to with another power source. You can do that with another redstone torch if you want to. So let's see, there's a redstone torch, powering that redstone, goes into that block, powers that block, now the torch is off. If you take away that power source, torch comes back on. Very useful for certain setups. Redstone, you can see what direction it sends the signal in. Based on where it's facing by itself, it'll go in all four directions. So if we powered that, well, actually if you attach it next to there, it just goes in a line. But actually, if you set some redstone next to it, then it would, go in all directions. So there you go. Alright, next we have redstone repeaters. These receive a signal on this end. They transmit the signal out on this end. And on the sides of them, there is no signal that's sent or received. So examples of that. If we put the power source here, you can see that it doesn't turn on, so it doesn't receive a signal on that end. If you put the power source on that side, it receives a signal and then puts it out on the other end. Redstone will keep a signal for 15 blocks. So if we have this powered, and that goes for torches or repeaters. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. After that point, it will no longer have a signal. You can tell by there's no dust coming up off of it. Alright. But then we have buttons, which are power sources. Pressing a button that's attached to a block, first off, you can't put them on top. They have to be on the sides. Will power this block, and it will power all the air blocks around it. The button is actually in this block that you're standing on. By powering this block, it will also send a signal into the redstone behind it. So you can see it's coming off of that block. If we have redstone there, that's attached to the air block where the button actually is. It'll also power the redstone on that side of it. Same thing. If you have it on the sides, powers it from all directions. If you have redstone on top of where the button is, powers it because it's from this block. And I think if it's below that block too. Yep, that also works. But not if it's to this side. If it's diagonal, it doesn't count. It has to actually be touching the sides of that block. Make sense? Good. Oh, also, if it's directly underneath the block where the button is, that also gets powered. Same thing with on top. If it's, well, you actually would have to have a block there. Let's see, do that real quick. We're going to put redstone right here. Alright, it does not power right there. So it won't power something attached to a block above it. Let's see if it attaches. Okay. So that doesn't work either. Levers are toggle switches. They're on-off. They have the same powering properties as a button. So the block that it's actually in, it will power all the blocks around it. Oops. Okay. You can put a lever sideways on an item. So we're going to put the lever right there. And then if you have redstone underneath, powers it. Okay. Then same thing. It's still this redstone is attached to the block that the lever is actually in, so it powers it. You can see there. When a lever is attached to the vertical surface of something, redstone coming off of that block will also be powered. Okay. Pressure plates are same powering properties as levers and buttons, except you have to put pressure on them for it to work. Oops. If you throw an item on a pressure plate, that will also power it. Okay. Next are doors. You want to power iron doors to get them open. That's the only way to open them. You can also power wooden doors, but I'm using an iron door just to show. You can't click it to open it. A button will power an iron door because it's powering this block, which is attached to the iron door. So it opens it. Same thing if you have a button to the side of it, that will open it because it's powering this block, which is attached to it. And anywhere around, except for diagonal, that will not power it. Can't power diagonally. But any of these buttons, they will open it. Same thing with levers. You can use a lever. Okay. Or you can use a pressure plate right next to the door. Pressure plates, let's scratch that. Alright, you can also power an iron door by powering the block next to it with redstone. So, we already saw that. It powers this block, pressure plate, powering the redstone, which sends power into this block, which will then open the iron door. Alright, so let's move on to pistons. Pistons can be powered directly. You can't put a button on it, but if you put the button there, that works. Because remember, the button is actually in this block. So it powers the piston. You can do levers and pressure plates also. And if you do redstone attached to it, you can power it as well. If you have a block next to a lever and power it with redstone, that also works to power it. Now, if you're doing levers and you want to power more than one, or piston, I mean, you cannot power a piston with another piston. Pistons will not transmit a signal, they will only receive a signal. So you know how we used a stone block to power that piston? You can't do it with another piston. See? Now what you can do, in that instance, is use like a redstone torch attached to a block to power both of them. Okay, well, I guess it doesn't work sideways. It does work vertically. I'll show you that real quick. Alright. Okay, the way this works, the redstone torch is powering that piston. It's also powering that block, which sends a signal into that piston. It also powers that block, which sends a signal into that piston. Off of these blocks, however, you will not get a signal for redstone itself. But you can power a piston that way. To use this on a switch, like if you wanted to power 3 pistons like that, you would have to turn this one off by using another torch. Okay, so that's turned off. Then attach the power source to that block. So we're going to use a lever. Alright, so what's going to happen, we turn the lever on, turns this torch off, which then removes that signal. which will then turn this torch back on, powering that block above, powering the block below, and putting a signal into all 3 pistons. That one goes off, signal gone. This one comes back on, pistons are powered. Get it? Got it? Good. Alright. I'm just going to show you this right here real quick. This is an advanced thing, but you can make it in your game, and hopefully it will help you understand the mechanics of some of this stuff. Basically, it's pistons that move a block around in a square. I'm going to turn it on, and I'll explain how it works. Alright, so you see it working. I'm going to turn it off. The only way to turn it off is to remove part of the circuit. When you press the button, it sends a signal into the redstone. We know that. The signal won't go this way because repeaters can only receive a signal from the back, and then they push the signal along that way. So we have a repeater in each section that keeps the signal moving forward. Okay? There's 4 of them. Then we have a repeater attached to the back of each piston, which receives the signal and puts it into the piston. For this to work, all 8 repeaters have to be at the max delay. If you have it any shorter, like say on delay 3, it won't work because of the timing of it. There's not enough time for the signal to go off to reach around and go all the way through. You see, that one didn't close in time for the block to get there. So the signal has to be delayed in order for the piston to close again so it comes back around. If you want to see it work, just rewind the video again. So that's it for tutorial number 1. If there's anything specific you'd like to see done, let me know in the comments, and take care.